All right, everybody, we are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Uhuru. And today I have a special guest. Brother T West is on with us from Afri Synergy. And today's topic is politicians who do not support reparations should not get your vote. Now, let me start with this. In fact, Brother T West, introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are, and then we'll hop right into it.
Yeah, hey, Dinus, yes, this is T West. For those of you who don't know me or know about me, Afro Synergy News. And Afro Synergy News deals with topics involving geopolitics, local politics, deal with all of it. Reparations, okay, that's the big thing, especially right now. So we deal with that as well. So I'm looking forward to this conversation today. And if you want to see more of the programs that are produced by Afro Synergy News, you can find me on Afro Synergy News and YouTube. You can also find me in Afro Synergy News on Facebook. Out in Twitter, I'm under, I don't do a hell of a lot of things in Twitter, but I'm out there under West Thea. That's WESTTHEA. So anyway, Dinus, thank you for the invite to your program. I'm looking forward to doing this because it's very, very important. I mean, the people who have been mistreated for the longest period of time and been
Right.
treated the worst have been African Americans, and you had other groups of people who've gotten reparations for various things, and they haven't been treated anywhere even close to negatively to African Americans. So I'm looking forward to dealing with this topic today. Excellent topic.
Now you mentioned how other groups received reparations, the Japanese, Italians, even the former slave masters received reparations.
Right.
Now, the argument is the reason why the Japanese, Jews, Italians, the reason why they receive reparations is because they have a nation of their own. Do you think Black America not having its own nation is playing a role in us not receiving, or the pushback in us receiving reparations?
No, it's not stopping us from receiving reparations. We are trendsetters. We break the mold. So just because these other groups who didn't face enslavement here in the United States originally came from these other nations, that does not by any means prohibit African Americans from achieving or getting reparations for 243 years of slavery, more than 100 years of Jim Crow, lynching, discrimination, sharecropping, all these ugly and negative things. And what you mentioned about other groups receiving reparations, including those pale skinned slave masters who owned black slaves, many of them, they received reparations from the U.S. government when they lost the labor of our ancestors, when they lost that. So
Right.
it's asinine um, to think and believe that this nation, with all of its wealth of past and current, can get away with the very, very nasty, low down, dirty, savage things that they did to an entire group of people here in the United States of America. So, no, once again, we do not have to have a nation state in order to get reparations. That helps. It can help in many cases, but as I said, we are trendsetters. We break the mold. So we're going to get it, and it's going to be in our lifetime. You know, anytime you have, I call them uh, the oversized puppies, such as Rush Limbaugh and Bill O'Reilly,
Right.
talking about reparations, and even Mitch McConnell in the Senate talking about reparations. That's telling you something right there. That's telling you that they're hearing footsteps in the dark, baby. Okay, we're coming and we're going to get it. We have to demand that. And every politician, whether they're black, white, or other, if they do not support reparations, then they should not and must not get your black vote. And even if you're not black and you support reparations, and a lot of white people do support reparations for African Americans. Lots of them do. Of course, lots of them don't, but that's okay. That's fine. But whoever you are, if they don't have reparations in their political agenda, then they don't get our vote. Now, if you have 5 people running for a political position and none of them have reparations in their agenda, then none of them are going to get your vote. In other words, you're going to withhold your vote. You have power. The power is with your vote, and you can withhold your vote and wait for a candidate who's going to say, yeah, look, I will do support reparations for African Americans. I mean, these politicians, they support almost everything that relates to illegal immigration in this country. They support that. Almost virtually everything with regards to illegal immigration. Many of these politicians, they support it. Mostly Democrats, but also some Republicans as well. Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. So I was on the Black Caucus site the other day, and as their objective, right, is of course to support African Americans. Then it follows up with all marginalized groups, and I'm like, hold on, why is the Black Caucus focused on marginalized groups outside of Black African Americans? Because if you go on a Hispanic caucus site, it's Hispanics. If you go on I think it was the Pacific Islander caucus site, it's strictly Pacific Islanders. But the Black Caucus is African Americans and all other marginalized groups. Because I know you just brought up as far as how Democrats, especially Black Democrats, like support all these other groups more than they do Black people.
Yeah, that's true. That's under that so-called moniker, people of color. The hell with that. No, this is for Black folks. Okay, period. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Don't be scared to say Black folks. The African Americans national political agenda. Don't be afraid to say, no, this is for Black people. All right. You got homosexuals, you got queers, you got white women, you got Hispanics. They're all demanding what they want. Okay. And they're using what was the profile of what Blacks used during the civil rights movement. They're using those strategies to try to get what they want. So when members of the Congressional Black Caucus say these things, look, we, the voters, because those people don't have any power, the Black Caucus, they don't really have any power. Because if those of you who are in Atlanta, and I say shame on Black folks in Atlanta, because you've been re-electing John Lewis year after year, year after year. So you're a part of the problem if you do that, okay? You have to demand that these people push and promote what is in your best interest as Black people here in America, okay? You have to do that. So the power is in your vote, and you can withhold your vote. There's power in voting. There's also power in withholding your vote, because once you let them know, look, you're not going to get my vote, then they're not elected. Hillary Clinton found that out. She discovered that. She discovered that a lot of Black men did not vote for her. Didn't happen. Right. And it's going to be even more profound in 2020 as Black folks, as they begin to listen to the message that I'm talking about here, right, as they realize that there is extreme amount of power in not voting for someone also, as well as voting for someone. Everybody have to get the Black vote. You must demand that they have in their platform, in their political platform, that they have reparations for African Americans, not for any other group. No. We're not going to sabotage this. Everything has been sabotaged. Affirmative action was first put there for African Americans.
It's a joke now. It's an absolute joke.
And the white women took it, and all the other ethnic groups, they took it. Yeah. So it's time to make a stand, and whether you Black, white, or other, make that stand.
It's funny you brought up Atlanta. There was actually a study done, an article that came out the other day saying that in Atlanta, Black Atlanta, which is supposed to be the Black Mecca in America, that only 25% of Black people are homeowners here in Atlanta. I was shocked by that. Well, I'm really not shocked because the area of Atlanta I live in is the neighborhood is called the West End. And as it started gentrifying, you notice all these tenants moving out that were Section 8. A lot of Section 8 tenants started to move out or being put out. And then you'll see this old Jewish or this old white guy pull up to the house to assess it to get it renovated so they can sell it. And then it's white people who are moving in. So I'm really not shocked. But yeah, in Atlanta, only 25% of black people are the homeowners.
Yeah, there's some head issues in Atlanta. I mean, whenever you have that large a number of black people and you do not exercise the power, the collective power of black people for things that are most dear to most black people, and you push and you promote other people's agendas. John Lewis, LGBTQ, he's promoting that agenda. I mean, that Negro, if he was in my area of the country, okay, I would be out there doing things to get him voted out of office and present a candidate who is actually going to represent the interests of most of the people who live there in Atlanta, which are black people. Now, but the problem is, once again, it's not just John Lewis. The problem is, it's the voting block there in Atlanta. There's a problem with a lot of black folks in Atlanta. I'm sorry to say, there's a big problem with that.
I agree. I agree. Now, the strategy of holding your vote if a candidate does not support reparations, a lot of people will say, oh man, reparations, you only get a check of $5. You only get $5. And then they're saying, why would you hold your vote when you're, I guess, sacrificing all these other social programs, which I have no clue how these social programs are benefiting the black community. I don't know. What are the social programs? What's your response to people who think like that?
Well, bottom line, whatever the social programs are, you're going to get them anyway, regardless of whoever the candidate is. Most of those social programs, you're going to get them anyway, because many of those social programs are out there to help prevent people from organizing and even rioting. Okay, you start taking away too much candy, what you will have an explosion in those streets. Okay, so withholding your vote for a much greater goal is the thing to do. And the much greater goal, when we start talking about reparations, we're not talking about $5. We're talking about more than. And I'm not going to give a number, but I'll just say this number right here. We're talking about more than $100,000 per each African American family who the ancestors went through slavery here in the United States of America. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about pennies now. And you have some people who talk about the argument about, well, okay, you give these black folks that money, they'll just throw it away, they'll just give it away. Look,
that's your business.
That's just talk.
Right.
That's just talk. Most black people are handle their money quite well, because I'll tell you something. Black folks have forever in this country taken a little and stretched it out to make it into much. Whereas if you were to give some of the other groups of people that amount of money, they couldn't survive on it. And I've seen it. I've seen it in my family. I've seen it with my mother, my grandmother. Okay. And even myself, I stretch it. I make that money go. So it's a matter of what do you do with what you got. Okay. You're always going to have some black folks who are going to squander their money. You got people of every ethnic group who squander their money. So what? That's on them. And if they squander their money, hey, they're in the streets. That has nothing to do with me or you. Okay? If we are good stewards of our finances, of our money, then we are rewarded for that. We reward ourselves. We reward our children, our grandchildren, our progeny for ourselves being good stewards of that money. So all the excuses need to go out the window. Reparations now.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay, guys, let's hit this like button. We have 146 people watching, only 60 likes. Please hit the like button as you come to the chat room. Again, we have Brother Thea T. West on with us today, and the topic is politicians who do not support reparations should not get your vote. So, T. West, we've been reduced to now voting for someone just to get Donald Trump out of office because Donald Trump is just a mean man. That's the logic. Now, when I try to get black people to articulate how has Donald Trump negatively impacted the black community outside of him just being mean, they can't, or just talking mean on Twitter or, on TV, just being a mean guy. They can't articulate anything. Well, how do you feel about this strategy? We have to vote for someone just to get rid of Donald Trump out of office because he's a mean guy.
Nonsense. Total nonsense. Donald Trump is a mean guy. That's mainstream media mostly talking. Donald Trump has done actually more things for African Americans indirectly and a few things directly than did Obama. Plain and simple. He has. Now, you have, for example, in HUD, on the HUD housing, Section 8 housing and all, you have black families in this country who are waiting for houses, been waiting for housing for years, but you've got illegal immigrants who are living in HUD housing. And here, his administration wasn't kicking these people out. Here comes the Trump administration, and here comes Ben Carson. Ben Carson is saying, no. You people cannot be living in these houses. The illegal immigrants, you can't be in these houses. We're going to give you a certain amount of time to get out of these houses because we have a waiting list of American citizens who are waiting for such housing. So when we talk about how the policies relate to African Americans and how African Americans must respond with regards to leadership who are saying and has been saying, look, we will lose this, we will lose that if we don't vote, if we don't get rid of Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump has not hurt black people. He hasn't hurt them. Donald Trump did not start a war like Obama did in Libya, which again led to black people being enslaved in Libya, led to black people having their organs harvested and having black people beaten and tortured in Libya. That was under Obama and Hillary. That wasn't Donald Trump. So intelligent black folks. Now, if you're not like this, you're not intelligent. Okay? Intelligent black people think creatively. They don't say something just because CNN said it, MSNBC said it, Fox News said it, or ABC, CBS. They don't say things just because they heard some talking head in the media say it. They don't say certain things because they heard Al Sharpton of National Network say it. They don't say certain things just because they heard Joy Reid say it, just because they heard April Ryan say it. They're not saying these things just because they heard these people say it. They critique the things that these people say. Intelligent black people, they do that. They critique what these talking heads say. And then they articulate what they have come up with and have concluded themselves. That's creative thinking. That is thinking for yourself. That is not allowing these talking heads who have led, for the most part, have misled black people for the last several decades. Now, I'm not talking about all of them. No. I'm not talking about all of them. But the noisy ones, the ones who get the notoriety, most of them have misled black people. I mean, they got rid of John Conyers. John Conyers, he was the one who promoted that over 30 years ago in 1987, 1989. He promoted that HR 40.
Right.
Resolution 40, which deals with a study of reparations.
Right.
Okay. And then you have now, several months ago, I came out with the African American National Political Agenda, and in there I talked about there has to be a twin or parent bill for HR 40 in the Senate. Now, unfortunately, and I give kudos to Cory Booker. Some of his people, as it appears, got the message to him that Cory Booker has presented a bill in the Senate, a companion bill in the Senate for HR 40. And that's good for reparations. So in next year or before next year, we're going to have Donald Trump uttering the word reparations in his mouth. It's going to be in his mouth, reparations. We've already influenced it to be uttered from the mouth of Mitch McConnell. And then we have Rush Limbaugh. He's mentioning reparations. We have Bill O'Reilly. He's mentioning reparations. Of course, they're mentioning it in a negative, in a derogatory way. But the victory, part of the victory is won because they're talking it. And that's what we want. We want Donald Trump talking reparations. The Democrats, even if those Democratic presidential candidates are not serious about reparations, even if they're not, they're actually serving our interests because they are putting it out there on the platform. And when it becomes a part of the Democrat platform, it then, in the general election next year, it then becomes a part of the general election platform, which is what we want. We want someone in power, someone in the White House who has the power to say yay or nay. We want someone in the White House who said, well, yeah, we should think about that. And that's what Trump is going to say sometime next year or before. He's going to say, well, yeah, that is, I think there are some validity to that. I think we should talk about reparations a little bit. I think we should consider some of the validity of that. Okay, and that's good. That's exactly what we want. We want all of that mixed in to that brew. We want that to happen. And we're going to force Donald Trump to talk about it.
Now, Thea, so in regards to this reparations debate, you have like several groups. I would say, I don't want to call them fringe groups, but you have several groups. You have the ADOS group led by Yvette Carnell and Tone Talks. You have Cobra, who just had their reparations national convention in Detroit this past weekend. You have all these different groups. Like, which group do you think is making the biggest impact, and why haven't these groups just came together as one? Just they're all fighting for the same goal.
Well, I am not one who say that all of these groups need to come together. I'm not one to say that, because you can still accomplish the goal without coming together. But there's one thing that is certain. They are together on one thing, and that is reparations. And that's the key thing. Okay. Now, different people, different groups have different ways and different methods of getting there, that whole bit. You have all of that. But one thing we do know is that it must be done through the U.S. government, not through a court, not through the World Court, not through the United Nations, not through any of that. That's all good. That's all good. But none of those entities, none of them can force the United States government to pay reparations. None of them. The court systems in the United States have already told one group of blacks, okay? And some of them are out there just, they still running and talking the same language and making a little bit of money, selling their little wares or whatever on it. But the courts have already told that group that this is outside of the jurisdiction of U.S. courts. It has to be a part of Congress. You have to take it to Congress. You have to take it to the U.S. government, not the court system. So we don't have to be together in the same room for this, but we do need to be together on the concept of reparations. And that's what's important. And as time moves on, and as we move closer to the reality of reparations, then you will begin to see these disparate groups coming closer and closer together in some form of unity with reparations.
All right, T. West, what does reparations look like? Is it just a check? I'm hearing this, oh, we need to invest in these schools. We need to do this. We need to create that. Me personally, I just want my check. Like, if you could break down or define reparations, what exactly would it be?
Reparations is a check. Period.
Okay.
It's a check. It's a check. Some people say, okay, we want land. No, it's a check. Okay? It's the money. Give the people the money. Okay? And then with the money, you can acquire land. You can buy land. Some people don't even want land. Some people.
Right.
If they get the money, they can get other things that they desire, other things that they need, other things that they can leverage and build from. Okay? So go for the money. It is not money to historically black colleges and universities. Many people who are graduates of HBCUs, they're going to be biased about that because they're graduates of HBCUs. But a very small, minute percent of African Americans are graduates of HBCUs. Okay, so if you want to talk about reparations being a part of contributing millions or whatever, billions of dollars to HBCUs, no. No. The average Joe Blow want their damn check. The average Joe Blow does not attend HBCUs. Okay, right. So that's all important, but we have to be focused. We have to be considerate of the majority of black people. We cannot rely upon the whims of the so-called talented 10th. Okay, we can't rely on that because the reliance on that has kept most black folks behind the 8 ball in the first place. The talented 10th once said, "Hey, lock them up. 3 strikes and you're out. We're for that. Rah, rah, rah."
Well, and then see what the talented 10th is saying that, hey, we already have generational wealth. We really don't need reparations.
That's the talented 10th. They do not represent the overwhelming majority of 42, 46 million African Americans in this country. They don't represent them. They represent themselves. They are the type who say, you can do anything in America. Anything.
If you just bootstrap. Yeah.
I made it. By God, you can make it too.
Right.
Okay. All right. Most people's success, most people who have great success, most of it is based on luck. And then the other part, hard work. Okay, but most of it is luck. Getting the breaks at the right time, being at the right place at the right time, and having enough skills or knowledge or abilities to get in that door and stay in that door. It's based on luck, not necessarily hard work. Go ahead.
True. And then somebody also brought this up that we should start off with class action lawsuits against the companies who benefited from slavery. Example, I think New York Life offered insurance policies to slave masters when their slaves passed away and whatnot. What are your thoughts on this class action lawsuit?
Well, that's nothing new. That's nothing new. I mean, that happened. That was proposed decades ago. Nation of Islam and others proposed that decades ago. Now, what you don't want to do, you don't want to get bogged down in the trees. You don't want to get bogged down in the mud. Okay. You only want to deal with the U.S. government. You don't want to deal with J.P. Morgan and others, and some of their names have changed. Okay, they've rebranded. You don't want to deal with them. And I'm gonna tell you why. Listen closely. The reason why you don't want to deal with them is because when you go to the U.S. government and you demand your check, you can bet your bottom dollar that the U.S. government will deal with them. Okay? The U.S. government will deal with them because the Treasury Department, they earn money from taxation and all from those big corporations. And if they're counting the dollars and all in the Treasury Department, and they're saying, well, hey, look, we know, and we got the record dating back 400 years ago of J.P. Morgan, Vanderbilts, and et cetera, et cetera. We've got the records of these companies and these individuals, these wealthy families who were involved in the slave trade, who were involved in selling blacks as commodity on Wall Street. We've got the records of all of that. So they can assess, the federal government can assess penalties to acquire money from them. Let them do the work for you.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yes.
Hold on. So Thea, I didn't think about that. So if we go after the government for reparations, you think in turn the government will go after these companies that benefited from slavery?
Government will handle much of that, okay? Because they're going to be looking, okay, where are we going to get the money from? They're gonna be turning over every rock. They have the money, of course. They print the money. They have the money to do whatever they want to do. Rather it raises the deficit or not. They have it. Okay. I mean, Pentagon budget, okay, over $750 billion, a record amount of money. Okay, they raised it. They got money, $38 billion before Obama left as president, $38 billion to Israel. Okay, all right, so they got the damn money. It's not a matter of do they have the money or not. Okay, then you have some people who say, black folks and white folks, and other. There's some folks who say, well, hey, look, I'm not going to pay a damn thing for reparations. Well, look here. I'm going to tell you something. And I told some of you this already. I'll tell you right now. It's none of your damn business. You didn't have anything to do with the United States government paying over $25,000 to the Japanese. You had nothing to do with that. You had no say in that. And you will have no say in this. Everybody who pays taxes, I pay taxes. Brother Dinas, you pay taxes.
Right.
That reparations is coming from our tax dollars, not just other folks' tax dollars, not just white folks' tax dollars, but my tax dollars. It's all coming from that. Some people say, well, part of reparations should be we should have be tax free. We should not have to pay any taxes. No. I don't agree with that. No, cut the damn check. Okay, cut the damn check. Okay, we're Americans also. Okay, all right, and because we pay taxes, we're paying into that into the reparations also. Okay. You didn't see any of that with the you didn't even see that kind of nonsense even with the so-called Jews.
Right.
When they were given reparations, even by the United States government, when they were given reparations, they didn't get no tax break. So all this loony toony stuff, I mean, it's creative thought. That's good. I'll give it credence for creative thinking, but let's put aside the stupid thinking though.
Somebody in the chat room says, ask your guest if he thinks it should only be, we already talked about that. It should only be a check. We just want to check.
Yeah, just check.
Now, okay, so we get the check. What's the end game? Now, I'm taking my check and I'm dipping to Africa. Now, for those who decide that they want to stay here, I think the end game should be build a nation of your own or integrate back into an African country. The reason why I say that is because, okay, so you got the check. We're still going to deal with racism. Will reparations solve systematic racism? That's my question.
Reparations will never solve systematic racism. Never will. That will never be solved. Ever. So let's put that false illusion, throw it out the window. Okay? It's not going to do that. But I'll tell you one thing. When you have money as a people, collectively, when you have money, the racists think once, twice, three times before they think about doing something crazy to you, because they know you now have the power, the money, the finances with which to sue their asses, to deal with them.
That didn't work for Black Wall Street and Greenville, North Carolina, South Carolina. And
you said it again, that did not work?
Because, we had money back after slavery during Reconstruction and the early... Totally different. You did not have, as black folks back then, you did not have the right to go out there and successfully sue white people. Now you do. Mm-hmm. Now you can do that. You couldn't do it with Black Wall Street when they killed those blacks in Oklahoma. Okay, there was no recourse. There was no insurance that was giving them money for that. When they burned out and killed nearly 100 black folks in Lower Manhattan in 1863, when the Irish did that to black folks, which is now today Lower Manhattan, the most valuable property in the United States, and black folks had a big part of that in 1863. Right. There was no repercussions for that. There was no payout. There was no reparations for any of that. You did not have the recourse of filing a lawsuit with regards to that. Even if you were a black doctor in Lower Manhattan or in Oklahoma with Black Wall Street, even if you had all that money and everything, you did not have the rights as a human being to exercise the power of your wealth with regards to white people, because white people would just come out and just kill you. Okay, they'll come out and just firebomb your place, blow your place up, and you had no recourse. Right.
Because the government did not support you. The government was not backing you. Different day in time, totally different. Now you can sue their asses. And you see black folks who have money who sue and they win. You see that. Now, we all know that had OJ not been wealthy, had he not been rich, had he not been rich, that we know that OJ would have been put underneath the jail.
True.
Okay, but it was his money in this age and time. Now, had that been in the 1920s, 1930s, 1950s,
He wouldn't have made it. He wouldn't have made it a try.
okay, no matter how much money he had, look at Jack Johnson,
Boxer.
great boxer. Okay, look at him. Look at what they did to him, and he was a rich man. But look at what they did to him. His money couldn't help him. Now you have only one exception today, only one, and that's limited, and that's with Bill Cosby.
In fact, somebody brought that up in the chat room. So, what's the difference between Bill Cosby and OJ?
Well, with Bill Cosby is this. With Bill Cosby, what you had people who changed the laws in Pennsylvania. They totally changed the laws to go after Bill Cosby. Totally changed them. Now they tried to do, and they did a little bit of that with Michael Jackson, and they still didn't get Michael Jackson. Okay, in California, California changed some laws to go after Michael Jackson in that last trial. Okay, and he was found not guilty. Okay, now, but in Pennsylvania, they changed the laws. They got rid of the other prosecutor. They put in that Democrat as the prosecutor. They put a black female right there as his tonto, and they took down Bill Cosby. Okay, so we could go into the details of what makes certain situations and circumstances different, but when we look at the macro level, and that's what I'm talking about the macro level, not the micro level. The micro level is when I go into the weeds and the mud involving a Bill Cosby. Okay, and Bill Cosby was an exception. You got Michael Jackson. You got O.J. Simpson. Okay, so they had to go around another way to try to antagonize O.J. Simpson. So they filed the civil suit against O.J. Okay, and even they did that kind of crap even with in some ways with Bill Cosby. Okay, so but for the most part, at the higher level, at the macro level, when you're talking about a check to every adult African American descendant of those who were enslaved in America, at the macro level, that's too much money. Okay, you cannot come out, the racists I'm talking about, the haters, the bigots. You cannot come out and successfully sabotage this type of check at this level, at this amount, at these numbers. You couldn't do it. Now you talked about, well, you have plans in Africa, and that's good. Some brothers and sisters do have plans in Africa, but you would have the resources to do that. But not only do you have plans in Africa, but Africa would also have plans for brothers and sisters who have gotten that check here in the United States of America. Okay? There will be plans. You will see some synergy happening and going on with African nations and the African Americans here in this country. You get it here. You get reparations when you get it here in America. You're also going to see blacks in Jamaica getting it from the British.
Right.
And the British have a part to play in this too, because not all of those 243 years was under the United States government. Part of that was under the British government.
Facts. You're right.
Okay? All right. Part of it was under the British government.
And part of it's under the Spanish government and
part of it was under the French government.
Yeah, you're right.
We have Louisiana Territory, French. We have much of the West, even parts of the South. That was under the Spanish.
Right.
Okay. So we have all of that right there. And now, so when you start talking about reparations and you start talking about the U.S. government, then the U.S. government will then say what I'm saying right now. Well, hey, look here. For those 243 years, we were only a nation for X number of years. So what about the British? You'll have the U.S. government coming to bat for you because they want the British to pay their piece too. They want the French, they want the Spanish to pay their piece too.
Well, T. West, what's your thoughts on candidates like Cory Booker? Now, Cory Booker was at the H.R. 40 hearing. You see certain Democrats who are, a lot of people say they're pandering to get the black vote, and they're not serious. What are your thoughts on that? As far as
it's easy to say someone is pandering, and that's fine. That's what politicians do. Politicians' business is to pander. They have to say, okay, now they have to first find out, okay, what do these people want? And then the politician has to say, well, is it would it be politically advantageous for me to come out and say that, hey, I support what you want now. I support it. I support it. It's a part of my platform. It's part of my platform. Okay. That is a part of politics, to pander. So if they pander, that's fine. I accept that. But you, as the voting bloc, as the voting constituents, you must force them to put action, to put meat on the bones to that pandering, to make reality of that pandering, to produce what they're promising. Bernie Sanders promises the moon, the stars. Right. He promises everything. Oh, free relief, relief, everything. That's pandering, but that's crazy pandering because we know he can't deliver that. We know that he's an independent. He's not even a Democrat. He's an independent. Very small, very, very small. Count them on two fingers, probably, of independence within Congress. Okay, so if they didn't show, if he didn't show all the years he's been in the Senate, now I know it's pissing off some of you Bernie Sanders supporters right now, but it applies to other candidates too, Elizabeth Warren as well. But Bernie Sanders, if you've been in the damn Senate for a few decades and you haven't accomplished what you're trying to pander and promise people right now, then what makes you think that you as president that you're going to be able to deliver that if you can't deliver it in the most powerful body in the U.S. government, which is the U.S. Senate, not the House, but the Senate, not the president, the Senate. That's where most of the power is in the U.S. government. It's a damn Senate.
All right, so I think it was Elizabeth Warren. She brought up how the LGBTQ alphabet community should also get reparations. Do you think they're going to turn reparations into something like affirmative action, where just everybody could claim it, and not specifically African descendants of slaves?
Oh, the word they. Let me say again, the word they. Focus on they. They don't mean jack. It's not about they. It's not about them. It's about us. Mm-hmm. They are not going to control this. They are not going to dictate with this. Elizabeth Warren is not going to dictate with this. The LGBTQ, they're not going to dictate with this. LGBT people, white women, white men, they were enslavers.
All right.
The most wealthiest group of people or community in this country so happen to be among LGBTQ. Okay? When you start dealing with Silicon Valley, you're dealing with a lot of homosexuals and lesbians. When you start dealing with Seattle, Washington, you're dealing with a lot of homosexuals and lesbians. Okay? That's why Obama loved to go up into that area of the country when he was running for president both times. Okay? Silicon Valley, he loved that. Seattle, he loved going up there. Seattle, Bellevue, Kent, Washington State. I know about that. I live there. Okay? So it's a hell of a lot of money up there. I mean, Steve Bezos.
Right.
Okay. Bill Gates. Okay. Two richest men in the world. They're up there. Seattle. Money. That's where it's at. So they are not the ones who dictate any of this. Anybody like Elizabeth Warren who comes out talking about, well, LGBT, and if she mentions LGBT and reparations in the same sentence, in the same paragraph, turn her off, blow her away. Blow her away means turn her off, okay? I don't want you guys to misconstrue what I just said, okay? Just blow her away with it. We don't want to listen to you. We're not going to abide by that. You're not going to dictate that. You're not going to determine. You're not going to sabotage what we want as African Americans with what you did with affirmative action. You're not going to sabotage this. Affirmative action is a white women thing now, okay? And it was first created by and started and dreamed up by Arthur Fletcher, a black man.
Right.
Okay. And it was intended initially, to right the wrongs of what we're going after reparations for, because it did not right the wrongs of what it was intended. And because it was sabotaged, therefore, we demand reparations. And we don't want any of these other fringe groups talking about reparations. None of that. None of it. And we don't want any coalitions with them if they're going to use our demand of reparations as a platform to promote their agenda. I mean, it's Jackson, Rainbow Coalition. Okay, now you see the rainbow flag now. You see it, you see it, you see it. Okay,
Right.
that was sabotage. Okay, it was a big sabotage. And they're continually, when you do something and it works, you will do it over and over and over and again until black folks finally figure it out. Hey, we've been bamboozled. We've been tricked. We've got the wool pulled over our eyes. We've been fooled. Okay? So it's time to open your doggone eyes and see it for what it really is. Go for yours. Not for anybody else, not for illegal immigrants. No, not for them. Us. We're first. We're first. Not the newcomers. We're first. We're first. We built the damn country. Okay? We suffered the longest. Beaten, killed, raped, lynched, burned, flayed. Okay, and worse. Harvested for organs. I did a program about 10 years ago, and it's become a big thing now about Henrietta Lacks. I was the first one to come out and really put that out there. How they use the cells of a black woman. They discovered that her cells would not die. She died of cancer, but her cells would not die. And the U.S. government used those cells to this very day, and they send these cells out around the world to laboratories for these classes and universities to run their lab tests and on around the world today. But use and abuse for too long. Too long. We are not going to cape for anybody else. We must cape for our own people. Today is our day. We've got somebody in the White House right now who have the balls and don't mind pissing off people, even some of the racists among his own group, and who will say, well, reparations, I think that's a good idea. And Trump, I can imagine him saying next year that, you know, look, you've given these illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, all of this and that and everything. You're still trying to give them all of these things. What have you done for African Americans, specifically for African Americans? Not as a catch-all, as a group. You know, when we talk about unemployment and all, we have record low unemployment for African Americans, but we also have record low unemployment for white people, Asian people, Mexican people, all across the board for the United States of America. But we're talking specifically for African Americans. That's what we're talking about. Now, why African Americans? Because when you start looking at the CDC, Center for Disease Control, and other government statistics in relationship and comparatively with African Americans and other groups, ethnic groups in this country, you will see that African Americans suffer more than any other ethnic group here in this country. Then you have to ask the question, why is it that African Americans, being one of the groups who have been here the longest in America, why is it that they're suffering more than any other group, percentage-wise, in this country? And then you have to ask the question, well, what is it that they suffered that was different from any other group in America? And then with that suffering, you have to ask the question, what type of restitution or corrective action was there for that suffering that was not a part of their fault, but a part of the fault of American institutions, American corporations in this country, American religious organizations in this country? What did they get for that? What type of salve, what type of balm came, what type of in Gilead, the balm in Gilead, what was given to them to heal them? Was there ever a healing process for that? And the answer is no. So therefore, you're different. You're different. You're a peculiar people. You're different. Therefore, the solutions for you must be different.
Shout out to everybody in the chat room. We have 286 people watching, 140 likes. Please hit that like button. We have Brother T West on. And today's topic is politicians who do not support reparations should not get your vote. Now, T West, this is what I'm confused about. And we're shifting topics just a little bit. These liberal cities, LA, Seattle, we would say Chicago, but specifically LA, are so filthy, and the Bay Area, San Francisco, are so filthy but the real estate prices are high. Why is that? The same thing with New York. Like, why is that? They have illegals, homelessness is out of control. They're not clean. Like in LA, you have on Skid Row, which is predominantly black. You have like typhoid and hepatitis B and A, whatever breakouts. Like, but the real estate is still expensive. Why is that?
Well, the reason why it's not just real estate. The real estate is good. That's good. The reason why it's so expensive is because anytime you have a large social net, anytime you have a large uh, illegal alien population,
Uh-huh.
and some of them came as illegal aliens, but under Ronald Reagan, Reagan did it twice, and also the Democrats picked up on it too. They made these people citizens. They
Right.
gave them amnesty, and they did it in the tens of millions. Okay, anytime you have that, you're going to have um, a requirement for a large amount of social support. Social support meaning financial support from the government. You're going to have a large social net. And in order for the government to get that money, that means that they're going to have to tax more. That means that your property tax is going to be higher because the state of California, the state of Indiana, and other states, New York, they're going to want and need the dollars to take care of that big, large social issue.
Mm-hmm.
And that big social issue is that you brought in all of these mostly poor people, okay, from these other countries, mainly and almost solely Hispanic countries, and you've made them a part of your society. So they need HUD housing, okay? They need Section 8 housing. They need food stamps. They need all these things. Therefore, your taxes are going to go up. So when you talk about real estate prices, when you start talking about those things, you're also talking about taxation.
Right.
Okay. When you start talking about the price to rent property in San Francisco, Oakland, and other areas of California, Los Angeles, you're talking about also the owners of that property sometimes having no choice but to raise the rent prices because they got to pay taxes.
Right.
Okay. So that's a part of it. And then the other part is obviously also greed. Greed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer. All right. So, that's my answer to that. Illegal immigration is a very, very big problem. If you look at the 21-point African American national political agenda, if you look at that, you will see that I inserted illegal immigration along
Right.
with reparations. And there is a connection. There is a connection. Because a part of the reason why blacks were not able to acquire and get, and I'm talking about at the macro level, I'm not talking about those of us who did pretty good. I'm not talking about the us. Okay, I'm talking about the majority of black folks. One of the reasons why blacks did not get and acquire what was intended after the 1965, 1964 civil rights bill and all was because it was sabotage. You started bringing in tens of millions of Hispanics from Mexico. And now that Mexico has pretty much dumped out almost everybody that they can dump out to the United States, now they're being dumped out from Nicaragua, El Salvador, and other Central American countries. Okay? They're being dumped into the United States. And the first group of people who are adversely, negatively affected by that are African Americans and other Hispanic Americans. I'm talking about Hispanic Americans who are American citizens. They're also affected because generally they live in the same areas, same neighborhoods and all. A part of that is because of redlining, the history of redlining, which is a part of why is being figured into the formula when we start talking about reparations, the check. Redlining, banking, redlining, not just in the South, in California. redlining the banks, financial institutions, okay, that kept pale-skinned Americans, white people, rich, made them richer and wealthier, while keeping blacks less wealthy or poor. All planned, sanctioned by the U.S. government.
So now the argument for people who support illegal immigration, especially it is proven that it adversely affects the black community, is that black people shouldn't complain because they're taking low wage jobs. What's your response to that argument that they're taking low wage jobs, so it shouldn't matter?
Bold-faced lie. It's a bold-faced lie. Most of them are not working in low-paying jobs. You have, for example, you have a company in Texas, Load Trail. They manufacture trailers, and ICE raided them several months ago. Arrested 160, at least 160. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the first time that ICE raided that company. And that company paid a fine of, I think, around about $500,000. Mm-hmm. And there was one manager in that company that says, hey, look, we had a problem. We just paid a fine. Okay?
All right.
We'd rather have these people working for us here. Now, but those people, cut to the chase. Those people were being paid over $20 an hour.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, you do have cases where, some of them are being paid very low wages. And the other scenario, which is more important, is that some of these employers can treat these people almost any kind of way they want to treat them, because they know that they hold leverage over them because they're working under the table. They are here in the United States illegally. Okay. True. So, and those are the same type of people with very often with the same type of mentality of those pale-skinned Americans who enslaved blacks in this country. You have that mentality. So those type of people, they support illegal immigration because it's a part of an effort to move towards the purest form of capitalism. And the purest form of capitalism is chattel slavery. Now, you have some of my brothers and some of my sisters out there who talk about, capitalism, and then they denigrate socialism. You know, no, you got to have balance with all of it. You got to have balance with capitalism. You have to have balance with socialism. All of that's good. You know, if I see my brother's a good brother, my sister's a good brother, and she's down, she's out, and I have the ability, the capability to help them, well, I probably should help them. That's socialism. Okay? Okay? We're social creatures. Okay? So there's nothing negative and dirty and low down about socialism. It's just that when it gets to a point where you are doing it, and that is the solution. Now, you see it as a solution, and what does that do? That makes people lazy. That makes people not want to go out and work. That makes people want to get out there and panhandle. Get out there and beg. I can do better begging than I can if I worked a job. I'm a lazy asshole. I don't like to work. Okay? All right. So you have to be careful about that. You have to be careful, as I said, with capitalism. Pure capitalism is chattel slavery. And the definition of capitalism is the maximizing of profits. And how best can you maximize? How much better than chattel slavery? You're a slave from the day you were born to the day you die. Your children who are born of you, they will be born into slavery. That was the experience of your ancestors, Brother Dinas, of my ancestors, of the ancestors of many who are listening to your program. That was their experience. But slavery doesn't exist anymore, T. West. Or T. West, I did not enslave I did not enslave any black people. So what? You benefited from it. You benefited from it. Every pale skin, every white person in the United States benefited from it. Whether you came from Italy, from Russia, from wherever, if you were white, when you got to America, you might have had problems with each other in Europe. If you came from Eastern Europe, you were considered by the Western Europeans, you were considered impure. In other words, you had a little too much of that blackness mixed in with you from Eastern Europe. But when you came to America, it didn't take long before you were accepted and you were branded along with the Brotherhood of White.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you were a part of it. You were a beneficiary of it. You benefited from the Land Grant Acts, where the U.S. government gave away millions of acres of land to white people. That's why a lot of white people are so rich today. And some people say, well, T. West, white people struggle just like black people. There are poor white people just like there are poor black people. Yes, but when you start playing the numbers, though, don't play the numbers with me, because it still remains that for every dollar that black people have in America, white folks have $18. 18 to 1. So you're not going to win the argument, because too much dirt and savagery has gone under this bridge. There's too much there. You cannot win the argument. You can get angry. You can stomp away. You can holler. You can call names. You can do all of that. But you cannot beat the truth, the facts. So, yes.
Shout out to Brian Cole and to Duke for the super chats. Thank you so much for the super chats. Really, really appreciate it. Now, Tia, do you think the reparations conversation will go mainstream, where we'll start hearing athletes and entertainers talking about it, or is it something that's going to be relatively, I guess, grassroots?
It's already both. Anytime you hear oversized puppies like Rush Limbaugh, Bill O'Reilly, Mitch McConnell in the U.S. Senate mention the word reparations, it's already mainstream, baby. It's already mainstream. And we're going to push it even more mainstream. It's going to be up there, neon signs, reparations, in all caps, blinking. That's the goal. That's where we're going with this. That's where we're going. Now, we're going to force this to happen. It's a demand. It's not a ask. It's not a request. It's a demand.
All right.
No, it's time up. It's time out now. This is the day for reparations, and we're going to push for it. Obama threw cold ice on it when he was president. He threw cold ice on it. Next year, you're not going to see Trump do that. He's not going to do it. Watch. As sure as I said in 2015 that Trump would be the next president, and why he would be the next president, I can tell you this, that African Americans' best bet for reparations is with Donald Trump, in spite of what Mitch McConnell said. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad Mitch McConnell opened up his mouth. I'm so glad, because that was a testament to the power that the many, many voices, and the voices are increasing. Okay? And I can give a shout out to all of them. All of them. I mean, you could say Yvette Carnell. You could say Antonio Moore.
Right.
You can talk about Tallahassee. Mm-hmm. Okay. All of them, even those long before them. I mean, I wrote a book in 1989 about reparations. Okay. All right. Self-published it long ago. Okay. So, and I was not even the pioneer of it. There were others before me. Reparations. But all of that has gone into building what we're seeing today. And there's a perfect situation that is developing for reparations.
Let's see. So Trump yesterday, somebody just put this in the chat room, and I just pulled up the article. I'm trying to pull it up. My computer's slow. He said that reparation is interesting, but it's not going to happen. What are your
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. If Trump, in fact, said reparations is interesting, is not going to happen, that's exactly what I said a few days ago. I think I actually said it a few weeks ago, something to that effect. I said, what you want Trump to say is the word reparations.
Mhm.
And he said interesting. And that's what I said. I said he's going to say reparations and he will say interesting. Something interesting. That's okay. We've seen Trump do an about face and switch. And we're going to force him to switch and change it up. It's early. We've got 2020 coming, the general election. And believe me, on the campaign trail, we're going to push it. We're going to promote it at Trump's rallies, at the Democrat Republican debate. We're going to push it. We're going to promote it. Okay? So that's what I have to say about that.
Now, as far as forcing someone, a politician, to, again, we keep bringing up the vote. We keep bringing up the vote. Everyone who super chatted, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm glad you are enjoying the conversation. I'm happy that you guys are enjoying it. Janine Smith, thank you for the super chat. So again, how do you push? I know we keep hearing we're going to withhold our vote. You know, is withholding your vote enough leverage? I see a situation where the only way that we could possibly get reparations or get them or force their hand is if Black people just completely check out, like don't go to work, don't do anything. No athletes don't compete. Like, look, we're going on strike until this happens. But you're saying that the vote is enough. Well, why is that?
Yeah. All right. Now we want people to go to work.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Now make that money. Make that money. I don't think most of you could never have enough of it. Make it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do the things you need to do. The power of the vote is the way to do it. Athletes and other big name people, when the grassroots, when the buzz is out there in the grassroots of people, athletes begin to start articulating that also. In most cases, they're not the leaders of such things. They're not. It's people out in the grassroots who are the leaders of such. And then when you start getting other big names signing on to it, they're just signing on to what people out there in the streets have been pushing and promoting all along anyway.
Right.
So with there was another part to that. I think that it was a question. What was the other part to that?
No, it's just is the withholding your vote enough to force the reparations issue?
Yeah. Yes. Withholding your vote is definitely enough, but it has to be strategic. For example, let's say that Kamala Harris,
Right.
just one name. Let's say that Kamala Harris was to come out and say, on my platform, on my website, I'm not going to put anything out there on my website that says that I support reparations for African Americans. But instead, what I will put out there is I support reparations for people who have been mistreated and traditionally maligned. Now, if Kamala Harris was to do something like that, and if in an organized way, in an intelligent way, if we as African Americans say, okay, this is on Kamala Harris's web page. This is a part of her platform that she does not specifically support reparations for African Americans. We're not going to vote for her. Okay, we've chosen her as the GOAT, as the example. Okay, and she doesn't make it through the Democrat primary. She checks out early. Not just Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was just an example. But we could select other top people. It could be Bernie Sanders. It could be Joe Biden. Okay? You select these people, and then you articulate ahead of time that this person, this candidate does not support this. Therefore, they will not get our support. That means they're not going to get any donations from us. They're not going to get our vote. Okay? And what you will see them being forced to drop out of the primaries. Not only people who are running for president, but also people who are running for Congress. Because you have executive orders that can do certain things, like with the Japanese I think that was done through an executive order, not
Right.
through Congress per se, with the Japanese reparations. Okay. And you also have Congress. Now, with reparations for African Americans, you're going to need Congress on board. Yeah, that ain't going to happen with just an executive order, no matter who the president is. Okay. So that means that you've got to look at people, congressmen and women in your district. Now, here's some work for each one of you. Every one of you who are listening. I don't want, I don't like talking outside of giving some hints of the work that you need to do. Okay. Otherwise, I got better things to do. Around here on my property, I got a lot of things to do. Enjoy my grandchildren. I got a lot of things, other things I could do. But this is my commitment to help the collective. So, but you tell those congressmen and congresswomen in your district, hey, you ask the question, do you support reparations? Okay, yes or no? Have you put it on your website that you support reparations? Because they can tell you yes. They can tell you no. And they tell you yes, and it's not on their website, they are, in the true sense of the word, simply pandering. They're lying to you. They don't really support it. We want it on their website. We demand that it be on their website. I support reparations for African Americans. So if they're in your district, wherever you are, Atlanta, Chicago, California, Arizona, New York, wherever they are, Cortez in New York, if they don't specifically and categorically support reparations for African Americans and don't be equivocating on it, well, Hispanics need reparations too. These families who are illegal immigrants coming across the border who've been harmed by ICE, they need reparations too. No. You start talking that, we write you off. Okay? That's the process of sabotaging what is specifically, and it's supposed to be specifically for you as African Americans, as descendants of people who were enslaved for 243 years in this country, more than 100 years of Jim Crow, lynching, other forms of discrimination, redlining. Okay? All right. So if they don't support it, then at the congressional level, you don't give them your vote. And if you have the power, you have the organization in your community, in your area, in your district to field a candidate, that is, get a candidate, okay, vet that candidate, make sure that that candidate supports your interests, and support that candidate up against someone like a John Lewis or others, then you withhold your vote. You simply withhold your vote. I'm not going to vote for you. If I don't have anybody to vote I'll just write my own damn name in. If I just have to vote, I'll write my own name in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to vote for you because you do not support the number one agenda. Look at the African Americans' national political agenda. 21 points. 21 points. Prioritize for African American people in this country. Look at it. Study it. Okay? Get ideas from it, and then move it to action based upon what you were able to get out of that. So those are my thoughts on that right there.
So, Brother West, what we'll do, we'll go ahead and close out. Anything else you'd like to share in closing? And also, too, please give everybody your contact information again so they could subscribe to your page and also reach out if they have any questions.
Yeah, well, once again, Dynas, I thank you for the invite on your program. It's been a while since we had a dialogue, and you've done some fantastic things. You're doing some fantastic things over there on the continent of Africa, and that's very good. I'll be in Ghana in August. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Now, but once again, I'm T. West. My name is Theophilus. Theotrus. The is just short for Theotrus. That's my name, Theotrus. But everybody calls me T because you're not going to remember Theotrus.
Mm-hmm.
So now, but Afro Synergy News, you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook. And I'm also out there in Twitter. But on the Twitter, I'm out there on the WESTTHEA. WESTTHEA. I appreciate all of the comments that many of you have made over the years that you continue to make. And that's very good. It's very good dialogue. We have to continue that dialogue, and we have to demand what we want. And it has to be prioritized. Okay? None of this little small stuff anymore. No. We're talking about the macro level. As I said before, the macro level at the high, for the majority of Black people, not the talented 10. Not them. Not the ones who graduated, which is very small in number comparatively to the more than 40 million Blacks in America who graduated from HBCUs. Not the Blacks who graduated from Yale, who graduated from Harvard, who graduated from Stanford, whatever. We're not talking about just that. We're talking about the whole collective. And that is the way that we must think. And I think that's a little bit of Booker T. Washington. Okay? There's a little bit of that right there. So those things we must be about. Once again, good topic, Brother Dynas.
No problem.
If the politicians do not support reparations, whether they're Black, white, or other, we do not give them our votes. That message must be sent to every politician, not just presidential candidates. Every last one of them. So thank you, Brother Dynas.
Anytime, Brother T. West. Anytime. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Hope you guys enjoyed the dialogue. Please go to Search for Uhuru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, like, share, subscribe if you're new. Also, hit that notification bell when you subscribe. Once again, Dynas Amir, Search for Uhuru. Till next time, family. Peace.